When going into battle, you are able to bring one weapon, one piece of headgear, one shirt, and one pair of shoes. Don't worry, pants are complimentary. Just thought I should let you know that. Every piece of equipment will have one main ability that'll be powerful on it, and then up to 3 slots of sub-abilities that are randomly rolled as you level up that piece of equipment. As you can see, we've yet to unlock anything like that yet, and we have some very basic abilities. If you want to know what anything does, you can just press X and you can read the info. There are many, many different weapons in Splatoon. Lots of different crazy playstyles. A lot of the weapons aren't even guns. And because there are so many different playstyles, and I want to go over what every weapon is capable of, and we can only show so much in one video of playing with that weapon, every time that we're going to go into battle, we're going to have the weapon of the day. So, time for our first weapon, Splattershot Jr. It's more exciting than it sounds, trust me. Believe it or not, they start you off with something very viable. I've seen many people stick with this thing for life, and heck, I even made it for a while. First, let's get the negatives out of the way. The range clearly isn't very good for a shooter, and you need to watch out for longer range weapons. But that's honestly about it. While it does have low damage, that's not a huge problem due to the fact that the rate of fire is so good, and it has such a wide spread of ink that it helps it cover the ground really, really fast. Plus, because the damage done by each bullet is so low, the ink consumption is pretty good for what it is, and it doesn't need to reload terribly often. The gun itself isn't super great at fighting, as it has the unfortunate combination of low range with very, very low accuracy. It has to be right on top of a target to get fast kills, since even at a slight distance you can see that most of the bullets are just curving around even a perfectly stationary target. That can get frustrating, and it gets even more frustrating if you're in the air. This is a good time to mention shot deviation. While in the air, shooters are less accurate, and it especially hurts low accuracy shooters like this one. So try not to be in the air when trying to get that quick kill. So why is this thing good again? Everything I've said so far makes it sound like it covers the ground pretty well, but doesn't really do much of anything else. Well, luckily for it, and also luckily for making the game not boring, the main gun is not the only thing that you're armed with in battle. Every weapon has a sub and a special, and that's where the strengths lie for this one. Sub-weapons are alternate attacks that generally consume a lot of ink. The Splattershot Jr.'s is the Splat Bomb, an insta-kill projectile if it's within close range of the target. If at a slightly further range, it'll be a solid hit of 30 base damage. Splat Bombs have all kinds of uses. The basics are that you can use them to check areas before you advance, if you're worried. You can use them to flush people out that you know are hiding behind something. You can trap players in corners, not giving them enough time to escape. You can throw a bomb behind someone and sweep fire forward to get an easy kill. Or, in the case of the Splattershot Jr. especially, you can use them to pressure enemies over a greater distance than your normally limited range. There's all kinds of uses for Splat Bombs, and we'll be seeing more of them as we get to more weapons that have them, but those are some basics and some ways that you can use them with the Splattershot Jr. specifically. As for specials, those are powerful effects that can only be activated after inking a certain amount of turf indicated in the upper right corner. Upon using one, no matter which one it is, your ink supply will instantly refill. The Splattershot Jr. special is Bubbler. It grants invincibility both to yourself and nearby teammates for 4.5 seconds. However, it is still affected by knockback, so I wouldn't exactly suggest rushing something head-on with it if it outranges you. It's commonly used to accomplish things you otherwise couldn't, such as 2v1s or as just a simple lifeline, which is the perfect special for getting players used to the controls and the mechanics. I love this thing. Due to the Splattershot Jr. rarely needing to reload, its spread covering the ground super well, and the good firing rate, it's so well complemented by something like a Bubbler simply because it's going to get it all the time. It's viable if only for that reason. It's just such a good combination. So that's the main gun, that's the special, that's the sub, that's the synergy they have together. That's a lot of S's, but anyway. I want to move on to equipment recommendations. Since it's not possible to predict what your equipment is going to give you whenever the slots are rolled and it is partially luck-based, I'm not going to suggest any outright builds simply because I can't predict what every player in the world is going to have. So instead, whenever we get to this, I'll just be recommending abilities that especially help that particular weapon. So that's what you see here, I guess. Don't know what else I can say about it. But at the end of every weapon bio, there's also going to be this, revisions. As of the time of making this video, Splatoon is on version 2.12.0. It's unlikely that any more balancing patches will ever be released, but just in case, you'll be able to turn on the annotations here to see any changes should any of them ever be made. Also, if I happen to be wrong about something, this is where I will stick that. As stated before, our equipment does not really look terribly exciting. Not only that, but the game is going to pair you up with players that have your same level of experience. Since we're level 1, it's going to pair us up with people that probably just got the game today, and there's a slight problem with that. I actually like this game. I don't want to pummel new players into the ground so hard that I kill any new community that this game would have received today. I want to make things challenging for myself, and I've played against level 1s. They just stand there and take it. They don't even shoot. I don't know, maybe we didn't play the same tutorial or something. I don't really know why it happens, but that's how things are. To fix this, pazzow! Personal save file that's a lot further along and gives us a lot more to work with. So here's the equipment spread that I decided to go with, following a lot of my own advice. And can I just point out how hilarious it is that the football helmet has run speed up as its main ability? I love that detail so much, and I'm so glad that it makes sense for me to use this right here so I can show that. Going over the abilities for the first time, you can check what the abilities do by pressing X again, and run speed up, pretty self-explanatory, just have that there for strafing, special duration up, kinda already been over this, swim speed up, also pretty self-explanatory. I don't think any of these abilities wouldn't tell you what they are just from the name, except for Ink Resist Up. It reduces damage and movement penalties incurred when moving through enemy ink. Of course, you can check these yourself on the gamepad or just from doing this, but I wanted to give special attention to it because this is one of the best non-stackable abilities in the whole game. It seems like it'd be kind of lame, just an ability that makes you take less damage and slows you down less when you touch enemy ink, but you're gonna stub your toe on little patches of ink so often that it's just generally a great ability to have, makes strafing and getting away a lot easier, just makes moving around a lot better, and movement is so darn important. I'm gonna warn you right now, this is probably gonna be the longest bio in the entire series. The reason for that is, actually a couple of reasons. This is the first instance of a weapon having multiple kits. That is, the same main gun, but with a different sub-weapon and a different special, allowing for different styles of fighting. Yeah, the Splattershot Jr. has one of these as well, but we're saving it for later for reasons that you will see, well, later. The Splattershot has not 2 different kits like most weapons do, but 3, and they're all actually pretty darn good. 2 of them especially you're going to be seeing in play a lot. So I wanted to give them all the time and attention that they deserve. They managed to all be great weapons in their own right. Why? Well, the Splattershot is a very balanced, easy-to-use weapon that most beginners can get to the basics effortlessly. There's almost no map that it can't play at least decently on because it's so average. Compared to the Junior, it has better range, better damage, and better shot accuracy, but at a slight cost of firing rate, spread, and ink economy. The hero shot at level 1 that you're using in story mode is the exact same weapon as the Splattershot. So if you've been playing single player and you're a little bit intimidated to go into versus, you already know how to use this and you have nothing to lose for at least trying. This weapon is really what you make it. It can be offensive, allowing for fast advancement, overwhelming an enemy by moving toward them quickly if you're smart with strafing, or if you prefer a more defensive approach, you can get within firing range before being noticed, and few weapons that can reach you will be able to outpace the Splattershot's damage rate. Speaking of the firing rate and the range, this is a particularly good weapon at stopping Krakens from getting close as they can't move toward connecting shots. The sub-weapon on this set is the Burst Bomb, first time seeing this one. This is a weaker splat bomb that instead of detonating about a second later, will detonate on contact and it consumes less ink to use. It takes 2 direct hits for a burst bomb to splat opponents at full health, whereas indirect hits will do anywhere from 25 to 35 base damage, depending on how close the bursts were to the target. They have many, many uses, and these things are amazing. They can flush out an enemy, they can damage someone to stick them in ink before a follow-up attack, they can check to see if enemies are hiding nearby before advancing around a corner, they can finish someone off after revealing their location, filling in small patches of ink in turf wars as you swim by and don't have anything else to do. You can quickly ink walls and climb up them, quick getaways, easy maneuverability. This is widely considered to be one of the best subs there is, and there was even a time before this thing received a bunch of nerfs where it was often argued that for a weapon to be viable in high-level play, it had to have burst bombs. I never personally agreed with that, but it was an opinion that you saw quite a bit, and for good reason. And it gets even better when the special is Burst Bomb Rush. This gives unlimited use of burst bombs for 6 seconds of base time. With no special duration upused, this grants as many as 16 free burst bombs per use. This special has only one major downside that I'd watch out for. Getting too mash happy with it and not paying attention to the fact that it's already over and accidentally using up all of your ink on your sub-weapon after it's worn off. Trust me, I have had many easily avoidable deaths happen to me because I didn't realize my bomb rush was over and was still mashing the button and had nothing to defend myself with when somebody shot me. Another nice tip with throwing burst bombs to ink a lot of turf really fast is to jump when throwing to get some extra distance. Can also help with hitting enemies, as with any attack, it has more range whenever you're jumping. Here's the equipment recommendations, and yeah, I really do mean it when I say everything else. It's not a joke. The Splattershot is such a balanced basic weapon that there's no ability out there that doesn't benefit it in a meaningful way. I greatly recommend the abilities that I've outright listed here above all others, but experiment. Build based on your playstyle. It's what you make it. And that is even more so true with the second of these sets. Unlocked at level 4 is the Tentatek Splattershot. If you've played more than, 2 games of Splatoon in your life, you've seen this thing. It is one of the most commonly played weapons out there, and as funny as it sounds for all the praise I gave the regular Splattershot, this is commonly considered to be the superior of those two. If there was ever a custom version of a weapon that's more popular than the original, it's this one. The combination of the sub and special weapons caused this to be seen as somewhat of a jack of all trades. Its sub-weapon is the Suction Bomb, also our first time seeing this, lots of firsts. These are slower detonating splat bombs that stick to any surface. Except for, water. With practice, throwing a suction bomb out of view from an enemy's line of sight on a wall or a low ceiling can make for easy splats before they can act accordingly. It is best used, however, for flushing out opponents so that you can attack them easily. It's like laying a trap. Because it explodes so slowly, people will certainly run away from it. If you rush where they're logically going to run to, you'll either kill them, they'll be stuck taking the bomb going boom, or even a combination of the two where you get in a little bit of damage and the bomb finishes them off. Its special is Inkzooka, also our first time seeing this. It's an insta-kill super weapon that lasts for 6.5 seconds of base time. In addition, it has the second best range of any shooting attack in the game, and its shots travel over walls, making it ideal for taking out snipers, opponents on higher ground that are far away, or just creating long lines of ink for your allies to swim through. When using it, be mindful of a few debuffs that it gives you. You have greatly decreased run speed while you're holding it, it has a slow firing rate, and it also has recoil after each shot. You can cancel this recoil by turning into a squid while in your own ink immediately after shooting it, but be mindful of it if you're going to be spamming. There's also the fact that the pillars it shoots travel straight, meaning that shooting from higher ground can cause it to travel over enemies' heads. Think of it like a real tornado. You'd want to be under it to avoid being ripped to shreds. Of course, even though this is insta-kill, I wouldn't recommend activating it in close combat simply because a missed shot is probably going to spell certain death due to the slow rate of fire. And I am going to divert into a biology lesson. Trees are a squid's natural-born enemy. Not any sort of animal that eats squids, which I don't actually know what any of them are, but seriously, do not fire the Inkzooka under a tree. If an enemy is close enough to a wall opposite to the shots, including splash walls, it's also possible for them to avoid your Inkzooka completely. Talking about the Tentatek Splattershot as a complete package, you got good damage, decent range, above average firing rate, bombs, decent turfing capabilities, and a special that outranges almost everything in the game. Pretty much every offensive attack in the game is there in at least some capacity, and there's no map that it feels outright useless in. A good Tentatek player can regain a team's losing control of the map. Its only real weak point is the fact that it has heavy special depletion, so when it dies, it'll lose a lot more of its special gauge than, a weapon with normal special depletion. I think you understand the terminology there. Heck, they practically invented the special depletion stat as a way of giving the Tentatek at least something to be bad at. Seriously, this thing is very good. Completing the trinity of amazing yet average Splattershot weapons that feel good on just about every map is the Wasabi Splattershot. This is our first example of a Sheldon's Pick weapon. These are third variants of weapons that tend to have radically different playstyles than the first two variants and are always unlocked at level 20. Has the same stats, except it has medium special depletion. Its sub is the Splat Bomb, and for once we have actually seen this before, so we can skip the intro explaining how it works! Editing those things was getting kinda tiring, so I welcome this. This explodes faster than its suction brother. Probably the name of a dirty movie? So, well-placed throws will equal splats a bit more often, whereas the suction bomb more frequently is used to manipulate enemy movement for a trap. Its special is the Ink Strike. First time going over this. It was nice while it lasted. It's a missile that rains down a torrent of ink over an area on the map. I haven't gone over this yet though, but there are other gameplay modes in Splatoon other than Turf Wars that we'll be getting to a lot later, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Ink Strike is particularly helpful in Splat Zones in addition to Turf Wars. It's one of the cheapest specials to use, requiring 180 points. One of the great things about Ink Strike is just letting it fly right at the very end of the time limit in Turf Wars. It'll be allowed to finish its animation just so long as it launched before the time limit was up, and your opponent can't really do anything about it because they can't shoot to cover it up after the time limit's expired. Just launch it at an area of the map that they have completely covered so you take as many points from them as possible, and this'll spell a win for you more often than you'd expect. It's great. All in all, performs very well in Splat Zones, performs very well in Turf Wars, and if there's a map that the Tentatek just isn't very good at, this is usually pretty good at those maps.